Anzac Day services are being held across the country to remember all of those who served in Australia's armed forces. 107 years ago, Australian troops landed at Gallipoli. In the intervening years, thousands of Australian servicemen and women have gone to battlefields to fight for our freedom. Too many never returned. For the veteran community, Anzac Day is their most important day. And today, it's the first time since 2019 that there have been no crowd capacity limits at dawn services and marches across the country. It's today that the election campaign takes somewhat of a pause as well. But the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, says the war in Ukraine is a reminder of the sacrifices of those who stand to defend their country. Matt Cunningham is live in Darwin for us, where the march is about to begin. Matt, what's the turnout been like today?
Well, as you can see around me, Laura, there are thousands of people who have lined the streets of Darwin ahead of the march, which will get underway in about 30 minutes' time. There's lots of kids here as well, plenty of people with Australian flags turning out to pay their respects to those diggers who landed on the beaches of Gallipoli 107 years ago. Now, this morning we heard from the Prime Minister. He addressed the crowd at the dawn service in Darwin. He spoke about the significance of today, Laura, in the context of what's happening in Europe at the moment. Here's the Prime Minister speaking this morning.
General Jim Molan, our colleague in the Parliament, who said it takes a nation to defend a nation. And what ultimately matters in that task is a people with a fierce and protective love of their nation and of their liberty. A love of home, family, community and country. A willingness to live for all of these things, but if necessary, to sacrifice for something far greater than ourselves. This morning, far away from here, the people of Ukraine are doing exactly that.
Now, as you said in your introduction, Laura, there will be something of a pause in the political hostilities today as both sides pause to reflect on Anzac Day. There are still a couple of issues, though, making headlines, particularly when it comes to defence and national security. Interesting, a statement put out from the White House in response to the security pact signed between China and the Solomon Islands. The White House saying it will respond appropriately to any attempts by China to establish a military base in this region. Of course, there are already 2,500 US Marines that rotate through Darwin every year. It'll be interesting to see whether there's going to be any increase in that US presence here. The Prime Minister also weighing in on that issue, saying that Australia will not tolerate China establishing a military base in this region. Of course, it was here in Darwin that Australia first experienced an invasion by a foreign enemy on our shores, just over 80 years ago, when the Japanese attacked Darwin on the 19th of February 1942. That was something that Richard Marles, the Deputy Labor leader, reflected on when he addressed the crowd at the dawn service.
In this very place, people could hear the noise of the aircraft. In this place, people witnessed the explosions of the bombs. Around us, more than 230 people died in the bombing of Darwin. And right behind me is the final resting place for 88 Americans who perished aboard USS Peary when it sank in Darwin Harbour.
Richard Marles also in the headlines this morning, Laura. He'll no doubt face some questions later this morning about a taxpayer-funded trip he took to Beijing back in 2019. But the politics aside, I had the opportunity after the dawn service, Laura, to speak to some of the people who'd attended that service, including some of the men who'd served our country both in East Timor and Iraq. Here's a bit of what they had to say.
Listened to the speeches today, and all of them were excellent in relation to recognising the sacrifice that people have given so that we can be free and we can enjoy this wonderful life we have here.
To commemorate the Anzacs, both New Zealand and Australia war heroes.
To come when there's not many people around, and yeah, nowadays it's hard to get a spot. But it's really good to see the people turning up and definitely showing their respects and everything like that, especially for the young kids turning up. My kids have been around since the day they were born, so yeah.
What about you kids? You proud of your dad?
Yes, yeah.
What does this mean to you today, to see everyone come out and pay tribute to people like your dad who served this country?
It's very special.
Plenty of politics around, Laura, but I think when you hear from people like that, people who've served our country and their families, you get an idea of what it means for them a day like today, and to see so many people turn out, as they have here in Darwin today, to pay their respects.
Lovely to see. Matt, thanks so much.